You're watching ASOTUCon 2024, presented in collaboration with Reynolds and Gubagoo.
Thanks to our studio partner, fullthrottle.ai, for making this panel happen.
I kind of manage my day since there's so many things going on. I'm always like looking like, what is the next thing? Where do I have to be next? And I looked up and I saw this and I was like, oh, this is one of my favorites because I just get to be with my friends. And three very smart friends, especially when it comes to the topic of affordability, talking about how to address the most pressing affordability issues. It's something I hear multiple times a day as when we talk about what are the biggest considerations in the industry. What are consumers most care, or what do they care most about? Monthly payment. Can I afford it? What can I afford? And then on the dealer side, it's like, well, maybe it looks like you can afford it, but can I get it financed? And we have three very experienced, savvy people in the way they approach and think about this. Andrew, I mean you.
I'm one of those.
Looking right at you.
I've got some experience, the gray hair.
So let me do this. If you could just, Matt Lasher, Damon Lester, Andrew DeFeo, I want you to talk about really quickly your store and give people a little context about your store, your location.
Elevator pitch, yeah.
Elevator pitch.
Sure. Matt Lasher, the Director of Marketing at the Wester Automotive Group. We're a 40-store group in Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, New York. We sell about 60,000 cars a year, have 3,500 employees, service about 500,000 cars a year. And the unique thing about Wester is our geographic density. Every store is within about 100 miles total, end to end. And we share our inventory across all the stores, used cars. And we actually share new car inventory across same store brands. So very fluid dynamic there. And we have logistics support and other things to help facilitate that. Did I miss anything? What was it?
And you have a movie theater.
Yeah, we do. We have a movie theater and our name on a couple other theaters in town and stuff.
I've been there.
And episode 3, More Than Cars. Like and subscribe.
Thank you. I always forget the self-promote, honestly. Yeah. If you go to More Than Cars, morethancars.tv, we have a show that's a docuseries about the inspiring things that happen inside auto dealers every single day. Episode 3 was the Wester Auto Group. We had a ton of fun. We went to your summer festival, which is worth seeing. So you should go and you should check out the episode. More to come. Damon.
Well, I can't compete.
I should have let Matt go last, huh?
I just have a small little Nissan dealership here in Bowie, Maryland, about 45 minutes away. We're number one Nissan dealer in the Maryland area. Within the Northeast region, we're top 50, and about 3 years in the business, and we're doing pretty well.
And I think it's important to note that Wester has a little bit of a head start on you when it comes to years in business.
70. So
70 years in history.
1950.
Three, Matt.
Yeah.
Don't count them out yet.
You're coming.
How many years you have, Damon?
Just 3.
3 years. Damon used to be the president of NAMAD, and he loved it so much that he became a dealer. So, and it definitely wasn't number one when you took over.
Yeah. That definitely wasn't that.
All right, Andrew.
Yep. So Andrew DeFeo, I'm a third-generation car dealer. The family started in the 50s as well, and we have 15 dealerships across 3 states: Connecticut, New Jersey, and Florida. And I have the distinct pleasure to be in Florida, and I will never go back to New Jersey or Connecticut for weather. But more importantly, it's a lot easier to do business in Florida than it is in those states. So.
Very good. Well, thank you for being here, sharing. Let's talk about. What is top of mind? What are the challenge when it comes to affordability? I know like payments are a big thing, but what do you see as the biggest tripping point? Is it finance? Is it placement on a vehicle? I'm gonna let Matt, you start first.
Sure.
When we talk about affordability.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody else about like context of the audience, and sometimes when you're talking about this subject matter, I spend a ton of time thinking about the affordability issue, so I don't want to get too far ahead in the conversation, but I will start with culture and what the bias that exists within your store as it relates to affordability. So I have this thesis that the majority of consumers, almost everybody, has some sort of budget constraint. Okay, so 40% of consumers have a credit score of 680 or less. Everybody above that 680 line has kids going to college, has inflationary issues that they're dealing with, has pay constrictions that they're dealing with at their job. So the majority of consumers, if you choose to see the world through this lens, you will realize that the majority of consumers have an affordability issue. Okay, so this is not just a subprime issue. This is not just some sort of like dirty word where we deal with credit criminals. So if you are objectively honest in your assessment of your dealership and you see or hear your team talking like I just said, you have a blind spot related to this, okay? If you believe that your customers are only tier 1 customers and you do not service customers with affordability challenges, you have a blind spot that your team is ignoring, right? So I'll start with that as like a thesis, because I believe we need to normalize the idea that affordability issues are real and they impact us all at a very human level. Okay, so there's nothing to be ashamed about. It's nothing to be, something that we need to run from. We can talk about it, confidently. And as the best thing about this is some of the challenges with interest rates and all of these negative equity things and all the things that impact the practical reality of putting a deal together. If we embrace the idea that this is a normal thing and we humanize it, we can guide our customers and our employees, perhaps, through this experience in a way that's very professional, and we add tons and tons of value in the experience. It's like going to Disney World, and you have that travel agent that books you the complicated experience at Disney World. That's what our people at the dealerships can do with respect to this very sensitive topic of one of the biggest purchases that they'll ever have in their life, right? So that would be my sort of setup to affordability as a problem. I think it's a broad one that we all face.
How many people think about it that deeply? Raise a show of hands. How many people's mind? Well, Brad, you work for Matt.
I paid him to do that.
No, but I think this is the reason we have conversations like this, because I think you just kind of like open the door a little wider and saying like, hey, we were looking through like a crack in the door and we saw like these few things, but when you open it a little wider, not only do you frame the problem in more accurately, but you also, I think, make this an opportunity to serve people in a much better way, and they already feel it, they already know it, but framing it that way is very helpful. Damon, I don't expect you to have a doctorate level thesis. Like Matt comes up with this in like 30 seconds in his mind. But when you think about affordability, what is your just general overarching thinking and approach toward it?
Yeah, I mean, you broke it down very well, but under the spirit of or umbrella of affordability, now everybody can go to Disney World, right? That's an expensive ticket, particularly for a family of 3.
Amen.
But for us, just everything that you mentioned, I echo. I mean, we are faced with affordability issues and faced with inflation as well within our stores, just like no different than the customer. And the customer, we have to have some empathy there, and the customer has to make a choice. Either, we talked about it this morning, a dozen of eggs or oil change. That's how real it is right now. And we are faced with the profit coma or the market adjustment coma of 3 years ago with COVID, and these folks are trying to get out of these vehicles, maybe for affordability, and they're upside down. And so most customers, whether it's a 850 FICO or 530, they don't want to put money down, but they got to put money down. And that's the decision that we have to help them, or help us help them, to figure out that we can put people in vehicles that will not damage them further by way of leases, by putting them in opportunities where we're trying to save them from themselves, from the past 3 years of purchasing cars. And I think we really haven't touched on it much as an industry, but there was so much free money pumping in this country that we had to dial it back now, and everyone is now feeling that crunch. And so I think everything you said, Matt, was on point, but we have to have some empathetic viewpoint that it's costly for them. It's also costly of us from affording to pay staff who was rolling like Puffy. No Diddy, but that's just the choices that both us customers and as owners have to make.
Andrew.
So I was in listening to a panel next door before this one about tech stacks, and I kind of challenged them with the question of, will Amazon solve the car buying process? And somebody gave an answer, over here. Somebody gave an answer over here. But I think his name was Nick Space Auto. Is that the?
Yeah.
So he said he's very unenthusiastic about it, and he had a really good answer for it. We as dealers, as salespeople, as service advisors, or technicians, we are problem solvers, okay? It is one thing for somebody that is, works for Amazon, gets an extra incentive from the manufacturer to buy a car through the platform, or a millionaire that can just click a button because they know exactly what they want and boom, and then have it delivered or go pick it up at the dealership. But to your point again, it's such a powerful point because I don't understand it because of who I am, but that somebody has to make a choice between a dozen eggs or an oil change. There is a significant amount of that in our country, especially in certain pockets of the country. And it is so important that we exist as dealers because we're the problem solvers. A widget on Amazon is not going to be able to go through all the challenges that our customers face. They might get 5 to 10% of the business, if that, but it's really important that we recognize and say, look, affordability is a challenge, it's a problem, it's a puzzle. Let's solve it. Okay, don't just give in and say, I'm sorry, you can't afford this payment or this vehicle. Let's find ways, whether it's working a little bit extra harder with a bank, or carrying different types of pre-owned inventory that you probably wouldn't have thought you would carry before, but you have to, because that's what the consumer's looking for. The consumer's already given up the fact that they're not going to get that $15,000 two-year-old Corolla with 20,000 miles. Now maybe we will start stocking some higher mileage vehicles that we wouldn't have stocked before because that's what the consumers are looking for and that they can afford.
Hey, Paul, can I jump in? I'll riff on that for a second.
Feel free to jump
So
in.
this event, this conference is about people, right? And the power of people. And, we have this phrase, people over everything, and we talk about that a lot. And I think, you're mentioning, Andrew, sort of this opportunity for the people within the industry to serve. I spend a lot of time talking to lenders about this problem. Lenders have zero idea if there are any lenders in the room, just hang with me. Zero idea of how a car is sold. Similarly, OEMs who produce these cars have often a very low level of respect for the human involvement that's needed to sell these vehicles. It is not the consumer goes to your website, finds exactly what they want, and that's how it goes. And I know a lot of tech vendors were trying to strip the people out of this process a little bit. Maybe I'm a romantic dinosaur, but I believe that the people, especially in retail auto, add incredible value in the process. And if you've ever sold a car directly, you know that they may have come in on the Nissan Titan, but instead you talk to them about making a wise financial decision and they left in a Sentra, and that was a better thing for them, right? And so this coaching and guiding and encouraging and inspiring and leading the communities that we serve is so critical to this problem and this puzzle.
I think that's even more potent coming from someone who has developed a tech product for to solve affordability challenges. Can you tell us, it's not a plug and we didn't talk about this, but you developed a product called Streamline. And what's the premise by which you developed the software?
Yeah, I was going to try not to talk about
No,
Streamline,
that's
but
my job,
so
because it's
yeah.
relevant to the conversation.
So it's really just a budget calculator and vehicle selection tool. So when you identify affordability issues in your process, negative equity, they've said, I'm buying a third car, kid going off to college, I have a credit issue, I got laid off from my job, whatever. You start with credit score and income and filter by LTV, basically, is sort of the simplified version of Streamline. We're filtering by LTV and other lender logic to only show cars that make sense for a consumer. Right now, your website's blind spot is it does not consider book value. So as much as your digital retailing tools want to be transactional and e-commerce end-to-end, they're not considering what the bank considers for the car. Your salespeople do not have the ability, if they're just using your website, to understand which cars will produce an LTV that's below 120 or 110 or whatever the customer needs to get an approval. It's kind of like buying a house, right? You have the manual inspection of your house to justify to the bank that I'm okay giving $1 million for this loan or whatever, right? We have this blind spot in our technology that we don't often talk about. On the new car side, it's a little bit different with invoicing and book values a little more straightforward and incentive calculations and things, but at least on the used car side, there can be tremendous variability in book value. It's not as simple as saying to a salesperson, go find the $19,000 car on the lot, because that might be the car with 80,000 miles that you can't get 72 months and the payment will be too high to get the customer approved. So we set our customers and salespeople up for what I call the great, Greg Goebel coined, the great train wreck. which happens every single day. And by the way, humbly, it still happens at West Her, even with this tool called Streamline that's used 15,000 times a month in our network. Okay, so it's a human problem. This happens every day, but it just happens. And sometimes customers want what they want, right? And our job is to facilitate that, okay, but maybe we set up the expectation of like, all right, well, it's not showing, this is gonna be a stretch, or maybe we got a cosigner or extra money or whatever, but.
Okay, so for you to develop that solution with you and your team and Scott, your foundational thesis was that people have a lot to do with the process. Where does that start? And I want all of you to weigh in on this. How do you start the process from affordability? How's it part of your sales process, actually? I'll start with David.
Yeah, we have a needs analysis, and I think most dealers do, and that the salesperson's job is to find out what the it is and why. It's about 10 to 15 questions, but they have to complete it, not with one-word answers, but it helps us understand, or helps us help the customer understand what their needs are. The other thing that we probably do than most dealerships, manager goes out to talk to the customer first.
First.
We do a manager live turn, so the manager can understand the wants and needs, and then direct the salesperson accordingly. But we try to use that needs analysis as the Bible, so to speak, so that we can know exactly what and how we need to help that customer.
Andrew, how would you approach?
I'm going to pivot a little bit about leasing because I think it's really important. And so, show of hands, how many dealers in the room? I think see a few. Okay, good. And how many think that leasing is a better way to drive a car? A few. Okay, if Brian Benstock was in the room, he'd be like jumping up and down and everything. But well, I firmly believe it's the best way to drive a car. And one of the reasons why is when you look at what a manufacturer incentivizes a cash deal or a finance deal, it's a couple of $1,000s. When you look at what it costs for them to subsidize a lease, it's $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. It's usually double what it costs them to do. So why should we not take advantage of the fact that it's costlier for the manufacturer to do this? We're putting more money into the deal for the consumer, and we know exactly when that consumer, within a few months, is going to be back in the marketplace. So what we're trying to lean into, so now, for the dealers in the room, when you talk to, maybe if you're low percentage and you talk to your people, what do they say? We're not a lease market, right? Well, let's change that, okay? Let's educate our staff. Let's educate the consumers through advertising. Get the OEM and the captive finance to hold lease training in your marketplace, because I think for the foreseeable future, I don't think we're really going to see too much deflation in the United States. If anything, it's going to kind of be stagflation. And to solve this problem, I really think we have to lean in on leasing new cars and used cars, and that's another.
Andrew, I love that. We're a high leasing place in Western New York. We lease a ton of cars.
Yep.
The leasing percentage has fallen since COVID, and it's creeping back up. All in on leasing EVs in particular, because of the uncertainty of future residual value, the federal tax credits that have enormous impact to a lease payment. It's interesting, anecdotal story, the hair cutter that cuts my kid's hair. She has some credit challenges, and she is trying to extricate herself from her employer who provides a car. So she comes to me, she's in a Subaru lease. Well, my store, helps her try to get out of this Subaru lease, okay? I said, hey, this is a perfect Streamline customer. Let's show her some used car alternatives, get her on a budget-friendly track, whatever. The store didn't listen to me, so they suggested a Subaru lease because she's in a Subaru lease now. She's paying for it. Employer was paying for it, and we can get her approved. We did get her approved on a Subaru lease. She went home, however, and had payment anxiety on her own. We sold her the new car. A new car is $10,000 or so on average more than a used car. So there was just a practical reality to the actual expense of a car. Every new car manufacturer saw the profits that dealers were making in the last several years and decided, hey, we'd like some of that, right? And obviously carrying costs of new cars and used cars has gone up too with the inflationary pressures. But leasing is an amazing customer retention tool and an incredible tool. I don't know if it's always the best tool for everyone in every situation, but could also be an effective tool to roll in some negative equity, right? So you get yourself out of that. You got to pay a little, make some painful payments for a couple of years, but you dig yourself out of that $10,000 hole or whatever. So there's situations like that I really like leasing for as well.
I've heard.
Well,
Go ahead.
I got a little story about the leasing thing. So there's a lot of customers who you try to talk into a lease or already currently in the lease, and like, you just bought this car 2 years. How do you have 100,000 miles on it? Are you ride sharing? You an Uber driver? You Uber Eats? No. I only do it on the weekends. No. That's your full-time job. It's okay. People don't want to admit what they're actually doing, and you're seeing this like, how the hell did you do that? Like, where are you going, to LA and back? It just doesn't make sense. But a lot of folks are doing this. I'm ashamed of admitting that I do ride share because they take that second job or third job.
There's pride, right? There's a pride as a human being, right? I think there's two types of people broadly related to their financial situation. I think there's some that are maybe a little ashamed or don't want to fully embrace that there could be an affordability issue there. They don't want to talk about it. They're going to pretend like everything's fine. I think there's another subset of people that really don't care about bad credit, not making payments. They're sort of almost proud that they're like, aggressive in that system. Like, I'm good. I don't need to pay those bills or whatever. But my experience, there's kind of those two camps. But so many of us fall in that other camp of like, we're not really willing to admit it. But money's a sensitive topic for us all, right? It's just what your coworker gets paid and what, like it's a funny topic.
Yeah, without a doubt it is. I had a question, and then Damon's story was so good.
I'm sorry.
It was so good. The story was so good. So negative equity is loud and proud right now. And how are you coaching your people to approach the negative equity situation? I think there is a real opportunity to position ourselves as dealers to become a trusted advisor and help people because we do understand finance. We do understand budget. We do understand money. And the reason some of these folks are in this position is because they don't as well. How are you positioning and preparing your people to have that conversation when they come in a negative equity situation, and how do you coach them through it?
As a salesperson many years ago, I often said the phrase, "I am not a financial advisor." And I incorrectly said that phrase to consumers to avoid the responsibility of coaching them through this decision. I think as we embrace this opportunity and this challenge and this reality of our marketplace, we can train our teams to have some confidence and have some skills in how will we navigate this. Doesn't mean you have to use a tool like Streamline. If you get, maybe you organize your lot in such a way that says these 6 cars with green dots on them would be great if you run into a customer through your conversation that mentions affordability issues. What do those types of conversations look like when you're doing the interview process? Because it might not be, I have bad credit. It might just be, I really got to be at $300 a month. Like that might be what they say to you. Well, tell me more about that. Why is it $300 a month? Well, that's just all I'm comfortable paying right now. Now, we all know maybe we'll deliver them at $450 or whatever the thing is, but that's a signal, perhaps, that there's some sensitivity to, right? So I don't think it's something that we should run from. I think we should just sort of embrace it, but it's training, sales management, active, talking through examples, success stories, early involvement with managers. I love that point that Damon mentioned. Just having finance managers lead sales meetings, I think, is an opportunity. Talk about the practical realities of some of the challenges that they might be bumping into. Give them an opportunity, some space to engage with the sales floor in a different way. That's like, because sometimes F&I can be adversarial, like, that's not a deal, get that out of here. 180%, what are you doing? Like, go pick another car. So I just think it's like active coaching, I guess, is how I see that.
How do your people handle situations that are heavy in negative equity?
So this is a very painful thing for our country, for cars and now for houses. There's there's the news article that came out this week that there's a significant increase in the number of houses that are upside down. And think about what that means. It means your down payment is gone if you are upside down in your house, okay? So to your point before about we are now realizing what trillions of dollars pumped into an economy, a global economy, in a very short period of time, the after effects of that. So I'm reading this book. Somebody asked me to read it, part of their club, called The Infinite Game. I know you know this. We operate in a finite game in this industry. We need to think outside of that 30-day window. And sometimes, and I agree, we need, depending on the severity of the problem that we're trying to solve, we need the finance expert, the sales manager expert, the dealer get involved, everybody. But we might get to a point where we just can't solve this problem today for this individual customer. But if we give them a great experience and we don't treat them like some of the other dealers that probably treated them pretty crappy or very quickly, that maybe not today that they will become a customer of ours, but maybe their coworker, when they tell them what a nice experience they had for a really difficult problem. Granted, let's make sure we're talking about a reasonable person here. But maybe we'll see them in a few years when their position improved because they got a new job and they're able to put more money down, or again, repeat referral business. So that's what we try to do, is let's make sure like we're always on stage with every single customer, and even though we don't get a result that we really wanted today, we might get it in a week, a month, a couple of years. But in this game that we're playing, we have to think long term and get out of these like short little weekend. I know it's hard because we all have a financial statement that we have to hit. But in certain situations like this, you really have to think outside the box.
How about a couple like accountability things, like some real practical business folks? So for the dealers that are in the room, some of this is theoretical, high level, like economic, whatever. There's two sort of blind spots that I've observed at West Her, so just speaking sort of critically of our own operation, that I think other dealers can look at to examine how well they navigate this environment. So first off, go into Route 1 or DealerTrack, whichever tool you submit applications into, download whatever time frame you'd like to download from, just a FICO mix. Okay, so just see by bucket type, what types of applications are you submitting to the banks? Okay, don't even worry about the banks yet. Just look at total number of applications sent and look at that breakdown, okay? It'll probably be, the more data you put in there, the closer to the national average it'll be, which is 40% of consumers have a credit score of 680 or less. The more data you put in there, that's likely what you see. If you do not see that, maybe your Mercedes store, maybe your Benz, BMW store, or something that has a wrinkle that is skewed slightly, but you will be surprised, even in those stores, the types of FICO scores that exist. The reason you as operators need to do that is the finance manager will not be vulnerable in their ability to get a deal funded. What's happening, the second blind spot that you need to be careful of, when we sell the wrong car and the customer needs to come up with $2,200 to get it delivered. What happens is the path of least resistance for the finance manager is to decrease the selling price of the car and roll the car, because they do not want the friction involved or the work involved. Finance managers are notoriously short-term driven, and they do not want to put in any extra effort to this deal. So we cost the dealership $2,200 because we cut the deal back just to roll it. Did we even ask the customer for the $2,000? Would be a nice quality check there. But those two things I think will start you down a path of awareness to, well, what does some of this look like from a business measurement perspective? Because I think sometimes it's like real easy to just kind of stay in the clouds a little bit, but I think that will just start you down asking some questions about how does this look and what does this look like. One of the things we're dealing with F&I in our business is this sort of catch-22 of results. F&I is an increasing amount of profit for our total deal. Okay, it's increasing. The front end is decreasing. F&I is increasing. There's some vulnerability in that, and compliance and regulatory situations. But there's also perhaps pay plan incentive things there going on. Finance managers reworking deals to make sure the extended warranty gets put in there, and we don't always want the true answers. And I'm just being real vulnerable with you all. We don't always really want to know what is the finance manager saying to sell 90% warranties on used cars. We like the PVD, but it's something that as dealer operators who care about the long-term health of our community and the business and the people we serve, we need to care about it and be curious about it.
Go ahead. You have a final comments.
So remember, we're not the only part of this equation. There are manufacturers involved here. And I said this morning, and maybe you don't know, it is okay to say no to the factory when they are trying to jam cars down our throats. And I've even heard of some manufacturers sneaking some cars in the last few months. So you got to watch your inventories, because when you say no, those cars start to build up at the plants because they have to keep these plants going. And eventually they're we're talking about, cutting deals and just doing anything that we can. Well, they've got to cut their deal too a little bit. The transaction price of a vehicle has gone from under 40,000 to close to just under 50, 48, 49,000 in a period of 3 or 4 years. That's revenue in their pockets. Okay. They've got to kind of step up here too to help out this affordability. And look, like, the COVID party is over. It was great, but now let's get back to reality. And if we want to continue to try to sell 14, 15 million retail units in the country and another 30, 40 million used cars, like, we've all got to take a little pain pill over the next couple of years. That's my spiel.
Damon, final word?
Hey, it's still a good time to buy a car, right? And,
That's right. Today.
I think we're kind of making it have this little roller coaster thing, but you got to always remember, when you hand those keys to that person, that's an external smile and an internal smile that takes place. And to see your dealer tag leave that lot, that's what this is all about. Mm-hmm. You just hope and pray they don't have buyer's remorse and come back. But at the same time, that's what we provide, right? We have to provide that service of joy, providing a vehicle with someone for their major key transportation to and from, i.e. vehicles for change. Those things do matter to people, whether we can afford it or not, but that's a major part of our life, is having a vehicle.
Well said.
Parting word?
Just, I would say, Brian Benstock sort of mentioned, I forget the exact equation he used, but about pain and what were the two other variables? Pain plus whatever, and you can't avoid the pain.
Pain, uncertainty, and constant work.
Yeah, so I
The
would
more
just
you try to avoid them, the more of them you get.
I would just be really careful as leaders that we don't use this dynamic of affordability issues in the economy as an excuse to not perform. Use it as a reason to push into and as an opportunity that we can control. So focus on what you can control. You can appraise every car coming in your service department and find another 3 cars to buy this month. You can call the bank and ask for a little help on this customer that's bought 7 cars from you. You can advocate for new car, incentives and leasing, rebates. So we can advocate in Washington and all these other things. So it's like digging into this problem as an opportunity, and we just as retailers continue to just add value to the industry like we already do.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear for Andrew, Damon, and Matt. Thank you, gentlemen.